Big news on the energy front for China and Russia. The East Route natural gas pipeline has just been completed and it's about to be commissioned to start supplying natural gas from Russia through northern China all the way to the coast. It's supplying very significant amounts, sufficient for the use of 130 million families for a whole year with this one pipeline. There's been quite a bit of talk about the trilateral relationship between China, Russia, and the United States. And this is in addition to what happened over the last 2 years, or nearly 3 years now, after the breakout of the Ukrainian and Russian conflict. First and foremost, in terms of this conflict, the end result is who's really suffered. Aside from the Ukrainians, the Europeans really suffered. Instead of cheap, piped natural gas from Russia, many European countries, especially countries like Germany, that depended a lot on natural gas for power as well as for raw materials for industries, suffered tremendously because instead of cheap piped-in gas from Russia, they were buying LNG, liquefied natural gas, from Qatar and of all other places, the United States, at many times the price of natural gas from Russia. Now, in terms of China's situation, is all this talk about President-elect Trump and President Vladimir Putin have great relationship. He will solve, as he said, the Russian-Ukraine conflict within 24 hours of taking office. I think that's a little bit optimistic because the Europeans are still concerned about potential conflict with the neighbor to the east. But for Russia, they've been lied to so many times, despite the fact that they were trying to move toward the West after the split up of the Soviet Union, despite the fact that they made a serious effort to move to the West. They were lied to and they were cheated so many times with the continued expansion of NATO all the way to the Russian border. What does that mean? Are they going to trust any promises made to resolve the conflict? I think that's going to be difficult. Russia will seek definitely some form of solid guarantees of not having NATO at its border, not continued eastward expansion by NATO. It's going to be very difficult for them to believe anything that the West promises, especially the United States. For China, the situation is sensitive because we're dealing in China with one who considers us strategic competitor, if not enemy, in case of some American Washington officials. And then on the other is a huge neighbor to the north. Now, what happened with the war with Ukraine? One of the things that happened is that trade, economic, financial collaboration, and energy collaboration between China and Russia has really blossomed to a point that no one could imagine in terms of energy supply to China. So I think the continued collaboration between China and Russia is more than just commercial. It's more strategic. Russia needs a solid, reliable partner on the commercial side, on the energy side, on the business side, and a reliable supplier of industrial goods, which the Europeans have sanctioned Russia from buying. But even if they release sanctions, Russians are beginning to find that Chinese products are cheaper, of the same quality, and if not of better quality, are cheaper than what they can buy from the Europeans. Now, whether or not what is claimed by some Washington officials that they will try to drive a wedge between China and Russia, I think it's unlikely because the Russians have had enough of lies and cheating by the Western Europeans and the United States. And then collaborating with China economically, financially, and in the energy and consumer products and industrial sectors has actually brought about the stable return of the Russian economy. So I think that's something very hard to give up. On the one hand, it's very hard to believe what the Americans promised. Number two is collaboration has brought about mutually beneficial results between China and Russia. So the idea of driving a wedge between China and Russia by the U.S., I think it's something to watch out for, but probably most likely would not succeed.